Welcome to Sacred Symbols, the internet's most beloved PlayStation podcast. If you want to get our show 3 days earlier than free feeds and completely without ads, please consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/ColinsLastStand. Your support on Patreon also allows you to submit your questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, and ideas to our show, gives you the ability to vote on the Let's Plays we do, allows you access to exclusive podcasts, and more. You can also buy Sacred Symbols merch by going to tinyurl.com/sacredshirts. I suspect you'd look damn sexy with our logo emblazoned across your chest, but that's just one man's opinion. Of course, we love our free feed listening audience too. If you don't have the means or desire to show us support on Patreon or with merch, please consider leaving us a nice review on the podcast service of your choice, and let friends and family know about Sacred Symbols. We, on the other hand, will keep making Tuesdays great again. But enough chatter. Have at you! On to the show. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast. This is a very special episode of the show. It's all about Microsoft Xbox's E3 presentation, announcements, etc. for 2019. We're calling it opposition research. I hope you enjoy this. Again, that's a political term. It's a joke. We don't really look at them as opposition. But since there is no Sony conference this year, we thought we would kind of really focus on Microsoft's and then do our normal episode with everything else. So Chris Raygun. The sickly Chris Raygun.
Yeah, just only slightly.
Yeah, you had a little bit of an event.
Yeah.
Where you went to the. Are you willing to talk about this, or do you want to keep it private?
Yeah, it's fine. I went to the ER like last night because I fucking. I don't know. Like my stomach was just killing me, and I assumed it was like my immediate assumption is that it's the worst thing possible. So it's like, oh, my appendix is gonna explode. Oh, my stomach tore open.
Right.
Or some crazy shit.
But it was no such thing. It was
It was just an ulcer and like some. What did I say it was?
You got some. I don't remember.
Acid
reflux. Yeah, you have. And you have. I think you have some poopy blockage.
Maybe.
If you don't drink
I'm just a little bit out of it.
If you don't drink a lot of water, it's hard to poop. You know?
I drink a ton of water, which is weird.
Yeah, so I always have a really backed up stomach when I go overseas because for some reason I don't drink water that much overseas. But, you know, like when I go to Europe and I have breakfast in like Germany, they give you like little glasses of everything. Like, who's drinking these little glasses of water? I need water. I'm an American.
Yeah.
I need American-sized water bottles.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Well, thank you for taking the time, Chris, to be with us today.
Of course.
We just watched the Xbox conference. Now, we'll go through, I think we can go through sequentially everything they announced. But before we do all of that, I'm just curious how you feel about their showing because I was really surprised. First of all, I don't engage too much in the gaming sphere. You know, I don't really see too many opinions other than our own. We like to kind of try to keep things fresh. But I was surprised going into Twitter. A lot of people were pretty negative or making jokes about it, but I thought it was a pretty good conference. I thought that they pretty much did what they needed to do to set everything up for next year.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was a pretty solid showcase. I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff that they pulled out of nowhere. Definitely wasn't expecting a Blair Witch game.
Yeah, that's cool.
Really strange.
Very cool.
Really
that will also be on PlayStation, I assume. But
yeah,
yes.
But still, also it's just like a weird. What? When was the last time I even heard about the Blair Witch?
Right.
So that's kind of neat. They had a lot of really cool indie stuff. I think in general, it's just like Microsoft's kind of in a like a no-win situation with a lot of people because they are the young ones. So inherently, like even if they have like the best showcase in the world, no one's gonna admit that.
Right.
I don't think it's possible. The main thing for me is always gonna be Halo, and they showed a really cool trailer for it. Really, really nice. Really nailed the atmosphere and the tone and the sound. I like that, especially because they've been deviating away from it for a while. So it feels good to get back into the swing of things. But you know, it's been a year since they announced it. They had a teaser trailer that year. This year, it's another kind of teaser trailer because it's releasing as a launch title for their new console next year, which is announced holiday 2020.
Right.
Project Scarlett, whatever the hell it's going to be called. I imagine it's probably going to be called Xbox One still.
Maybe.
I think it's just going to be another addendum.
It could be. I think that they should just call it Xbox. You know, like I've always, that's what I wanted, and I still want PS5 to really be called is PlayStation. Just remove the numbers. Let's get modular. Let's send the message that these things are going to be more platform-based and cloud-based, and they're going to stick around for long periods of time. And so I'm a little bit surprised by the negative reaction to it because I agree with you. Like, a lot of people are really hard on Xbox. I've been hard on Xbox in the past, too. Sometimes they deserve it, like in 2013.
Oh, yeah.
with the launch of the console. And I do appreciate that Phil Spencer basically took a shot at that at the Xbox One. By the way, when he was talking about Project Scarlett, he didn't talk about the guys behind the original Xbox One, that vision, all those kinds of things. He's talking about Xbox One X and the
Don Matrick here.
Right, exactly. So I actually really appreciated that kind of self-deprecation, but I don't know what else people really expected of them to do. They announced a new studio, a bunch of new exclusive games are coming to the platform. I don't really know. This is, again, what I said last year. I understand that Xbox is behind the 8-ball, and I appreciate that. I also appreciate that we have a very partisan PlayStation audience, which is totally fine. I'm somewhat of a partisan PlayStation fan myself, but you got to call it like, or at least I got to call it like I see it. And I look at a lot of these games and I look at this presentation, and while I don't see anything up there that makes Sony regret not being there, I don't see anything that was like so revolutionary where Sony's like, God damn it, why weren't we at the E3? I think that this basically confirms their impression that they don't belong there right now. But at the same time, I look at it and I'm like, yeah, new console coming next year. You put a little bit of a date window on it. You release some games. You got your guys up there talking about stuff. PC crossplay and ubiquity. I think it's a positive message and a positive conference.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think it was good overall. It's just the thing that I wanted to see was not there.
I understand
that kind of bums me out. But I thought it was a solid showcase overall. I'm interested to see where their xCloud thing goes, because the idea of using your own system as a server is kind of neat.
Yeah.
I'm curious how that's definitely going to give them some kind of leeway, considering what Google's doing.
Definitely. Now, and it's worth noting, by the way, that Sony is now, their what is it, the letter of understanding or memoranda or something like that.
Yeah.
So it seems like Sony's probably going to get involved in some way in what they're doing too. But I wrote a little bit of a sequential order of everything that was announced and shown. So I guess we can go over all of this stuff in our opposition research and stop when necessary. If there are third-party games, which there are a lot of them, we will mention them and talk briefly about them, but I'm going to save them for our normal show because some of these games need to be talked about as being PlayStation games too. For the starters, they talked about Xbox Game Studios opening the show, and they showed Obsidian's Outer Worlds, which is not an Xbox exclusive. So that was a little bit of a surprise to me, was them leading with that. I thought that was strange. Their studio made that, but a private division is publishing that game. That's coming to PS4. We have a release date of October 25th. I think it looks great. Again, I think it's weird to open with that. I think they should have opened with something else.
It also wasn't that great of a trailer for it, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think of the game, though? I think the game looks pretty cool.
It looks cool. It looks definitely like one of those kinds. It looks like Fallout New Vegas without without that horrendous engine. It looks good. I'm excited. There's a shrink ray in it, which is pretty neat. That's something I'm surprised I haven't seen, actually, now that I think about it.
Is that going to be another one of your go-to features of a game?
Definitely
like a hook
not.
shot?
Definitely not, but it's one of those things that I kind of appreciated, because it's very strange to me because that's a very sci-fi thing, right? A shrink ray. That's a pretty commonly understood. Like, you say that and you understand what it is, but I've never seen it in a game now that I think about it. Maybe like 2 max, and I can't even think of them right now.
Yeah. Yeah, like Ratchet maybe had one, a shrink ray or something like that.
It's just kind of interesting that it's not more utilized. I guess I guess it's weird.
And then in the Final Fantasy games, you can cast Toad and all those things to make people small as well. Ninja Theory, which was a British studio that Microsoft bought last year. They actually made Heavenly Sword, the PS3 exclusive. They made, most recently, Hellblade. You guys would know them if you saw them.
Yeah, and they're working on a 4v4 multiplayer.
Right. This actually leaked before the show. Bleeding Edge it's called. Now, I will note this, Chris. This is kind of a throwaway line, but they were noting that Ninja Theory is working on multiple projects with multiple teams. Now, that's a bit of a surprise. They were never a very big team. They have only released 3 games since 2004, 2005, so they're not a huge team.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit surprised by that it looks like they saw some promise there. They're scaling, dumping money into that. What did you think of Bleeding Edge? This is an Xbox exclusive. Will also obviously come to PC. In case you guys are curious, June 27th, the technical alpha begins, so you can get involved in that. I feel like it reminded me of a goofy For Honor. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of Gotham City Imposters, which is kind of weird.
Shit. I forgot about that game.
Yeah, just the look of it. It doesn't look nearly as janky as that.
Right.
But
for people that don't know, that was a Batman licensed online shooter that was around
it was
for like
really
2
strange,
seconds.
Really weird. But it had a lot of. I really dig the character design. A lot of it's like pretty weird, and some of it's pretty metal. Looks really cool, actually. Now that I think about it, I can't really think of many, games like that where it's like 4v4 multiplayer and there's like in-depth melee combat like I saw. It looks pretty neat.
Yeah, I think it looks cool too. It's got a lot of like personality, and also what stood out to me about it was Ninja Theory has a very specific aesthetic and a very specific mood in their games.
Yeah.
And That's not here.
Yeah, this was a completely different thing.
So that's kind of cool, I guess. I mean, teams should pivot and try new things, I think.
Nah, for sure.
So I'm pretty amped up about that. But again,
It's
a stylistic thing, and I'm not going to obviously play it.
Yeah.
So there is that if you guys are looking forward to that. Ori and the Will of the Wisps was shown. Again, this is, of course, from Moon Studios, which Microsoft has owned for a while. This game comes out February 11th, 2020. It's a Metroidvania, side-scrolling Metroidvania like the other two games, the Ori games, and it looks really, really great. Looks really awesome.
Really solid games. All of those games are really good.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what people think of that. That might actually be... And again, all of these games will be available on PC, so you're going to have options there as well.
They announced a Minecraft Dungeons.
Yeah, which looks pretty
was
cool.
Kind of surprising.
Spring 2020.
Yeah, an isometric... How would you say, like an isometric RPG kind of...
Yeah, it looks like an action RPG.
Yeah.
It looks like a pre-made... I assume it's not pre-made entirely, but almost like a pre-made Minecraft game in which you actually play the game, as opposed to building and stuff like that. It looked like it had a new UI and everything. The interesting thing about this is that, as I noted, and we'll note on episode 50, Minecraft was the best-selling PS4 game last month. And we'll get into why that is and all of that on the normal show. But I'm wondering if Minecraft Dungeons is the one game that they showed from their first party that will actually come to PlayStation. That wasn't clear to me one way or the other, because I've long been an advocate of them removing Minecraft from PlayStation platforms completely. Like, why would you give this game to them? You know, like... This game has sold like 125 million copies. Like, people are obviously going to buy your hardware, to play it. So I wonder if they're going to continue that ubiquitous sort of agnostic publishing cycle with Mojang, or if they're going to hold it to their console and to their ecosystem. Phil Spencer then came on stage. He noted that there are 2+ billion potential players in the world. I hate this number. This number is nonsense. It's basically people that play phone games and Facebook games and stuff like that. Yeah. It's cool to celebrate gaming. I think gaming can be everything, but that number bothers me. That's obviously nonsense. There are a few 100 million hardcore gamers in the world at most that care about any of this kind of stuff. So I thought that was a little bit of a disingenuous bullshit marketing number. And he stressed interconnectivity and boundaryless gaming, which is good. I mean, they've been talking about this for a long time. And then he noted at this point 60 games highlighted, so there were 60 games in total shown at the show, 14 games from the Xbox Game Studios, and then 34 games of those will be in Game Pass.
Yeah.
Which is pretty exciting. They showed Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which will come out November 15th, 2019. Now, EA showed a little bit of that beforehand, but what do you think of this game? This is a single-player game from Respawn. We'll talk more about it on our show, but what were your original or initial impressions of this?
It looks pretty cool. I like that it reminds me a lot of 1313, like when I look at it. Like, there's a lot of weight behind the character. It doesn't look as kind of it doesn't look as snappy, and I mean that in like a negative way, as Force Unleashed was. Whereas it looks like Force Unleashed if it had like a good budget behind it. It looks pretty cool. I like it. I dug the fact that you could climb those AT-ATs.
Yeah.
Reminded me of Shadow of the Colossus a little bit. I loved it.
It looks cool.
I'm interested to see how it... I wonder how difficult it's going to be, though, because a lot of those fights looked pretty easy. So hopefully there's some kind of difficulty spike or some way to... I don't know. It looks a bit too easy, but I guess that's what a demo is.
Yeah, I'm sure that won't be a problem. Or at least I assume that won't be a problem. Also, Forrest Whitaker is in it. I think his character's in Rogue One.
Yeah, he's in Rogue One.
Which is, I think, an exceptional Star Wars movie, actually. So I thought that was kind of a neat thing to kind of tie everything together. Again, I feel like Star Wars is so small. Like, it feels so small because everyone is just in all of them. It doesn't really make any sense. But that's what people want. And I like those kinds of touchstones. We'll talk more about that on our show. Blair Witch. A Blair Witch game titled Blair Witch coming out August 30th. I actually called it, which I'm really quite surprised by, because when I saw the dude in the corner, I'm like, is this Blair?
That was the first thing I thought of too, but I was like, why would they make a Blair Witch game?
Dude, I remember seeing Blair Witch in the theater in 1999 still. And for people that don't remember, you were young at the time.
I didn't see it in theaters.
This was I don't know if you know this about this movie. This was during the internet era, but there was a theory, even when the movie was in theaters for months, that it actually was real. Do you know anything about that? The big marketing behind it and why Blair Witch became so big in the late 90s was because people thought that it was real. That like it was a real thing. And because the internet wasn't what it is today, there was no way to like really dispel it. I know that there's lots of people out there that are listening to this that totally remember that was like the big thing. Like, holy shit, this is crazy. Like, where do they get this footage from and stuff like that? It was pretty cool. Cyberpunk coming out April 16th, 2020. We'll save the Cyberpunk conversation for our show, but Keanu Reeves was at Microsoft's Xbox conference.
Yeah, probably my favorite part of the show, I think.
Yeah. Maybe he should have been like the centerpiece
Yeah,
of,
just
of the
put
conference.
Keanu in everything.
Why not?
Yeah.
And you noted he's having a bit of a renaissance with his
Oh, for sure.
with his career.
John Wick, Bill and Ted, this,
Right. Yeah, pretty cool.
Cyberpunk out of nowhere.
Yeah, I wonder how like
he's in that. He's also in like this weird. I don't know if it's Netflix or Amazon or so. He's in some weird, like romantic comedy that I wasn't anticipating. Like, did you see anything about this?
No.
It's just this. It looks like a generic rom-com, and then like all of a sudden, Keanu Reeves comes in and dates the girl.
It's weird.
It's really weird. It looks hilarious though.
Where did he come? Like, where did he go? And I always,
I love too. He looks the same in all of them.
Yeah,
like he's the exact same. Like he filmed all of these things in like the same day.
Remember the one where he was a scientist? It's like Heavy Water or something like that, or something like that. Or it was weird. It was this weird early aughts. Anyway,
no idea.
Spiritfarer was announced from Thunder Lotus. Nothing there. Battletoads. They showed the new Battletoads game that will obviously be an Xbox/PC exclusive.
I wonder if it's going to be as frustrating.
Yeah, I actually was really surprised that it looked like they showed some behind the back footage, perspective footage that made it look like the old frustrating Battletoads game on NES. Mm-hmm. I know that you have to call back to that. And by the way, Battletoads is even in Shovel Knight, so that's kind of cool. But I don't know. I'm wondering how this is going to do. Like,
yeah.
Is Battletoads relevant? I don't know.
I don't know.
They own it. They might as well do something with it.
Is Blair Witch relevant, though?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, whatever.
Yeah. RPG time, The Legend of Right was announced. This kind of looks like... It kind of looks like in the same spirit, let's say, of Drawn to Death, actually.
Yeah.
But it's like a role-playing, like a paper tabletop role-playing game. It looks pretty cool.
Looks neat.
Bunch of ID at Xbox games. So these are all independent games. Some of them we actually already knew about. Presumably, you can assume that all of these will come to PlayStation.
Yeah.
Dead Static Drive, Pathologic 2, Star Renegades, After Party.
I'm excited about that one.
Tabs, Totally Accurate Battle Simulator, which I think is a great name. The Good Life, Crosscode, Creatures in the Well, Killer Queen Black. Killer Queen. Have you ever played Killer Queen before?
No.
Killer Queen is a really interesting game that people should go look at. It was originally an arcade-only game. There was literally only like a couple dozen machines in the world. And there was one in San Francisco I used to play at, and there was like one in New York, and it was made by these college kids, and it's a game that requires you to have like a number of players to play it. So they finally figured out a way to bring it to console in this Killer Queen Black version. But it's a really interesting game with a really interesting story. People should go check it out if they'd like. The game River Bond was shown. Now, we saw River Bond in the last State of Play, and I guess it was just my impression of it, Chris, but River Bond looked like a second-party exclusive. That's kind of the way that they were talking about it at Sony. Okay, apparently not true. And really that was, weird. I guess, my own misconception. Unto the End, Blazing Chrome, Felix the Reaper, Undermine, Supermarket Shriek, which looks really cool.
Yeah.
Secret Neighbor, Eichenfell, The Lord of the Rings card game, Nightcall, and Totem Teller. So those are all of the ID at Xbox indie games. You would assume most, again, or all of those will come to PlayStation. Now, at this point, Chris, they talked about Xbox Game Pass, and they announced something called the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which is Xbox Game Pass, Xbox Live Gold, and it's basically no additional charge, and it gives you access now to the newly released Xbox Game Pass on PC that has its own independent catalog of 100 games or so, and then also your subscription to Xbox Game Pass traditionally on console, which has obviously way more than that. And new to Game Pass right now, if you have it, Batman Arkham Knight, Metro Exodus, Hollow Knight, and Borderlands, the Handsome Collection, which is also free right now for PS Plus. So what did you make of all of this? This is basically $9.99, I think, a month for the whole shebang.
I think it was $14.99, right?
Oh, $14.99. Yeah. I'm sorry. $9.99 for the regular one. I'm sorry. $14.99. Yeah. Oh, okay. I guess you're right.
Not bad though. Honestly, it's a pretty good value. Honestly, like Game Pass already was pretty good, and I guess the thought of having that available on PC is pretty good. I don't believe it was bundled with Xbox Live Gold before though. That's a pretty good deal too. Honestly, that's a really shocking amount of value actually.
Yeah, definitely.
When you think about it,
I think that they have to I think Xbox Live Gold, similar to PlayStation Plus, are actually becoming irrelevant because at one time they represented a way to play online, but then also to get some discounts and free games. But it seems like they've been weaning people off of the necessity of Xbox Live and PlayStation Plus for anything other than online play, and that's just kind of your experience. So now it's about adding value on the back end, I think. Yeah. So they could basically just make themselves look good by saying, like, you already own this. We're probably not losing any money anyway.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So here you go. I think it's a nice step forward.
Really smart move. I also thought that they were going to do this a while ago, where they were just going to merge Game Pass and Xbox Live Gold, and this is very clearly what this is. So, score one.
I mean, yeah, I think that's a great deal, and this really does set a nice stage for what we hope Sony will do with PlayStation Now, PlayStation Plus and hopefully have some sort of Game Pass as well in there as well, which I assume that has to be. I assume that they're going to have PlayStation Now is probably going to be what it is because PlayStation Now already lets you download games except for PS3 games because they need to be emulated off of a cloud.
Mm-hmm.
So they're already there. They're just not talking about it too much yet.
Yeah.
So again, another nice reason to let Xbox go first. Anything else in there that we need to talk about? Oh, it's worth noting the Master Chief Collection is available on PC right now, and as part of the Xbox Game Pass PC collection, it'll be available for free if you have a subscription there.
Yeah.
Now, we were talking about the launcher for that. Presumably, you need to use an Xbox. They were talking about an Xbox app, but Game Pass is not going to be available, I don't think, in Steam or anything like that, right? Like their games might be available in Steam.
Yeah, I think Game Pass is probably the launcher.
Yeah, I would assume so as well because if you're going to get
there's already a game. There's already an Xbox game launcher. I think I have it on my PC. I don't really use it all that often. I might now. But yeah, I doubt they're going to put Xbox Game Pass on Steam. That doesn't even seem feasible.
It doesn't actually seem possible because you're earning Xbox achievements. It seems to be clued into that ecosystem quite a bit. So we'll see what happens with that. All right. So some other stuff that they talked about, Microsoft Flight Simulator, which I was surprised they didn't rename at this point, but it looked really cool.
Yeah.
Chris made a great point that there's a lot of just connectivity with people in their mind with that brand name, even though it's a terrible name for a game. Look pretty cool, so that's obviously not going to come to PlayStation. They talked about Ages of Empire 2 Definitive Edition, which will be on PC. I think that has something to do with Game Pass as well. They showed Wasteland 3, which will obviously come to PlayStation. We were a little surprised by that. We thought it was Fallout 76 at first, for the first few seconds. We also were watching a pretty grainy feed of it, to be fair.
Which would explain why it would look like Fallout 76.
At this point, they made a really big announcement, Chris. Double Fine Productions has joined Microsoft Studios as a first-party team. This is obviously a San Francisco-based studio. Best known for Psychonauts. It was founded in 2000 by Tim Schafer and some other guys from LucasArts. So it's a pretty substantial studio with a lot of talent. A really surprising announcement to me, actually, for two reasons. Number one is that Double Fine has actually been working somewhat intimately with Sony recently, or at least in the last few years. Sony funded the recreation of Full Throttle and some other adventure games that they were bringing first to PlayStation 4 and to Vita.
Yeah.
So they were kind of working with Sony in there, but also Double Fine has always just been this fiercely independent studio that actually tried to work with everybody. And if tens of millions of dollars were dangled in front of me, I certainly wouldn't say no. So I'm not saying Tim Schafer and those guys are sellouts. I would sell out in 5 seconds. I did a whole show, I think, a year or two about selling out. I think we actually did it on Knockback. I think selling out is what everyone wants to do. But at the same time, it was just a huge surprise because they don't seem to fit into Xbox Studios, and they don't really make games that are that big. In fact, as far as I understand about them, they've always really been hanging on by a thread, like for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've always had some patron that was funding whatever they were doing, but they were never able to really get out from underneath working for others. So in other words, they never got to make like a big AAA game and like really have a coming out party. I think the most AAA game they ever made was Brutal Legend. That was 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
So I was a little bit surprised by that announcement, but they did show off Psychonauts 2. Now, Psychonauts 2 was announced or revealed or talked about before Xbox bought them. It's unclear to me now if this game is coming to PlayStation or not. I don't know about that yet. I think we're going to have to start... These questions are going to be asked by people at E3 during interviews now, and so we're going to start getting answers about this. But I don't think Psychonauts had a publisher, and so I would not be surprised if this was now an Xbox game.
It wouldn't surprise me either.
It's different than the situation, when we were talking at the very top of the show with Obsidian and Private Division. The Outer Worlds has already been bought and paid for.
Yeah.
But this was a bit of a different project. So I don't know. You guys actually might have more answers by the time you hear this. But we did want to throw that out there as well. They did show Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga.
Yeah, so that's like all 9 movie-based games and like one that's kind of neat. It's a good value if you like those games and haven't really delved into the majority of them.
Indeed. That will come out sometime in 2020. What's exciting and interesting about that is that means that the developers and designers are already privy to what's in episode 9. I've always wondered about that, like how you keep that secret and like what kind of like things people have to sign. I've heard the NDAs with Lucas, or I guess now with Disney, are insane. So I certainly wouldn't break them. So there's that. DBZ, or Dragon Ball Z Project Z Kakarot, is an RPG, a role-playing game. It looks like an action RPG of some sort.
Yeah, confusing.
Yeah, it comes to, that's like Dragon Ball.
Yeah, but I just don't understand how that's going to be an RPG at all.
We'll see. That comes out in 2020. 12 Minutes is a game being published by Annapurna. I don't know who's developing it. They might be developing it in-house, but I don't think they even develop games. This is actually one of the most memorable games, I think, of the entire conference for me.
Yeah, it's like an over-the-top view of like 2 people in like this time loop, I guess.
Yeah, that are stuck in this 12-minute time loop with each other. Or at least this one man is stuck in this 12-minute time loop. So that looks pretty interesting. I know a lot of people poo-poo those kinds of games. I hate that people do that. I think that these kinds of games are very valuable. Reminds me of 3/4 Home and some of these other very short games that I think have a place.
Yeah, Inside.
Yeah, Inside is another great example. Way to the Woods is another game that they showed.
Game about deer.
Which looks pretty cool. Chris, I found out because they showed deer twice during this conference. Chris actually has a bit of a fear of deer.
I don't have a fear of deer. I just don't like them because they're rats.
So you dislike them.
They're just big rats.
Yeah, they are.
Disgusting.
They are big rats. Now, Gears of War 5, or just Gears 5, is coming very soon, September 10th, which is a little bit of a surprise to me. That's only in a few months. You can play 4 days early if you get the limited edition, or I think if you're a Game Pass subscriber.
Yeah, if you have Game Pass Ultimate, I think.
And then finally, there are some, with Gears 5, there are a few other things that you need to know. It's the biggest Gears campaign ever, which I think they already talked about.
Really weird that they showed gameplay last year, but not this year. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Last year looked great.
Yeah.
Yeah, this year was kind of like
more of like a
story-driven montage or something.
Yeah. Looks neat. Looks like Gears.
Yeah. July versus multiplayer tech test, and then in August 19th is a horde mode test.
Yeah.
So you have that to look forward to. Now, Gears 5 Escape, what was this all about where they showed the Terminator?
I think it was like some there's like some Terminator skin or some Terminator crossover event in Gears 5. I have no idea what that is. I didn't even know there was a new Terminator coming out. I assume there is.
There is, yeah. I saw a trailer for it when I went and saw Rocket Man, which was the Elton John
kind
of biopic. It was good. I thought it was a little surreal, I'll say. Like, it's not, I want it to be a little more literal. It's like kind of like a musical almost, and I know everyone like expects that, but it's like a musical where there are like musical numbers. So instead of seeing Elton John's actor playing the song, it's like a number with like actors and singers and dancers. I'm like, it's a little weird, but it was cool. I like Elton John. Xbox Elite Controller 2.
This thing looks great.
This is another big announcement.
Beautiful controller.
Really looks nice. This is again. I know. All right, so I know
you can tighten the stiffness of the control of the analog sticks.
Yeah, it comes with like some sort of Allen key. It's pretty cool. Looks great. This is again. I know. Everyone says that there are third-party PlayStation endorsed Elite style controllers from these different companies. Not good enough. Sony needs to get involved in making these kinds of controllers, and that Microsoft is doubling down on this not only means that they're selling well enough, but that people want more customization. This is a big frustration for me. We've talked about it in the past on the show, Chris. Not only the Elite controller, but just the inability to customize your controllers and buy them. Like any color you want, combinations of colors, logos. It'd be cool to get Sacred Symbols logos on our controllers or whatever, but Sony is just so hesitant to do anything like that, and I don't really get it. So this is, again, Microsoft running in another direction.
Yeah, it looks great.
It does. I love the original Elite controller. I remember being at E3 in 2015 or 2016 when they had the Elite controller and they showed it to me and they brought it out of a bag. It wasn't out yet. I was like, this is amazing. This is an amazing controller.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like it on PlayStation.
It's a shame.
They finally showed Dying Light 2 for spring 2020. Now, this is, we now know, will be published by Square Enix. So my assumption is that we're going to learn a lot more about it at the Square Enix conference.
For sure.
But it looks great. Forza Horizon 4 Lego expansion. It's called Speed Champions.
Really
it's
weird.
out now-ish. Yeah, weird. Maybe to get kids involved in playing Forza.
Yeah, probably a good call, actually.
This is a big bait and switch. The Gears Pop game, which was shown last year, if I remember correctly, at Xbox's press conference, is not an Xbox game. It's an iOS and Android game. That's a
really weird.
Was that ever indicated before? I don't pay great attention to Xbox, but I recall never hearing that about the Gears
I don't. I was baffled for sure. Not that I was looking forward to it at all, but really weird move. Yeah, for sure.
Agreed. Phantasy Star Online 2, free to play, coming to Xbox in spring 2020. This is a big deal. Now, they made a big deal about bringing this to Xbox, and again, we're going to learn in the coming days. Obviously, this is coming to PlayStation 4. I wouldn't even be surprised if it was coming to Switch as well, and obviously PC. But Phantasy Star Online has really gotten short shrift for some reason in the West. I don't really understand why they were really hesitant to ever give this game love in the West. I mean, it was even on Vita and stuff like that, and pretty big in Japan. So it's I feel like this is a little late for Sega to be bringing it here. I don't feel like it's going to find a huge audience, but nonetheless, there it is. State of Decay 2, Heartland.
Confusing.
Yeah, what do you think of this?
It's a story expansion for a game that its strength is not story. The reason State of Decay is good is because of the resource management and the mechanics and shit. I don't want to spend time listening to horrendous dialogue. I'd rather everybody just shut up, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
So the thought of like new stories, it's like, all right, neat, I guess. I don't know. It's really weird. State of Decay is a game that I have a lot of. It's a love-hate kind of relationship with that game.
Yeah, I can understand that because
it's honestly like one of the best zombie sims that I've played. It really gets you involved in like making sure you've got enough gas and like food. Like there's something about it that like really ticks something in my brain. But then you just have to suffer through all this horrendous dialogue, like hilarious, but it's taking itself super seriously. I don't get it. It's weird.
Well, that will be coming in the future.
Yeah, I think it was even out.
Oh yeah, that might actually be out now. I don't
Not
have a
sure
note about that. Tales of Arise was announced. Now, this was a game that was leaked. This is a Bandai Namco and Tales of Studio game. This is the new Tales game set for 2020. Interesting that it's at Xbox's conference. They did have one Xbox 360 exclusive Tales game back in the day, as you guys know, Vesperia, which just came to PS4 actually. But it was interesting to see it there, but there's no other place for them to put it. And it doesn't look like a Tales game to me. I don't know
Looks
how
like
I
an
feel
action
about
RPG,
this.
right?
Yeah, I just, even the art style, like I didn't immediately recognize it as a Tales game. Like there was just something, I'm like, and I've played pretty much every Tales game. I love that series. So I don't know. This reminds me a little bit of Tales of Berseria in the sense that they tried something new with that game, or was it Zestiria that they tried something new, where it was like big open worlds, and it just wasn't very good. So I hope that they know what they're doing. This is also the first Tales game that Hideo Baba has not produced. And by the way, we've talked a lot about Hideo Baba in recent weeks because he went to Square Enix. He founded Studio Istolia, which was making a game for Square Enix, and then they shut the studio down and he left. So something went wrong there, and now we're getting this Tales game without him. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. They did show Borderlands 3. We already know that comes out September 13th. Looks great.
And there's an expansion.
Yep, there's
for Borderlands 2.
I
they're
love
putting
that.
out, which is a great idea.
Love it.
Coming only to, I believe it's only coming to the Handsome Collection version.
So unfortunately, if you have Borderlands 2 on PS3 or Xbox 360, you will not have access to this.
I wonder if it's going to be like that on PC too. That'd be a weird move.
Commander Lilith and the fight for Sanctuary is what it's called. It's apparently free if you own the Handsome Collection, like Chris said.
Yeah.
Now, I thought it would have been cool. I guess I understand why would you do it, but it would have been really neat if they were like, this is literally available for PS3 and Xbox 360. Now, I know that they'd have to go through certification. They're probably not going to make very much money doing that, but it would have been a really neat thing to be like, we actually are literally going to connect the original game to this one, even if that's the only one you own.
It would be cool.
But I guess it's really not a big deal because Handsome Collection is free right now for both consoles.
So it's actually a pretty smart move when you think about it. Really cool. Really neat idea.
They showed one of the last games, actually the last game before they showed Halo was Elden Ring. Now, this game also leaked. This is a Bandai Namco published game working with From Software.
And George R.R. Martin.
Yeah, and George R.R. Martin, of course, the mind behind Game of Thrones.
Yeah, so if you want to know why Season 8 was terrible, this is why.
Now, I wonder how much of an inclusion you really had in this game. It reminds me of when Homefront, when THQ and Chaos released Homefront. You remember that game?
Yeah.
In 2010, I want to say it was. And they claimed that John Milius wrote the game. Do you know who John Milius is?
No.
John Milius wrote Red Dawn. He wrote Apocalypse Now. He's like a really right-wing, well-known right-wing Hollywood writer.
Weird.
And I used to have a picture of him on my desk at IGN because I was like in love with him. His like, you know how everyone has like their headshots? His headshot was him smoking a cigar with a rifle, like a shotgun or whatever. And so people were saying John Milius wrote this, and then it was not like I talked to people at Chaos and stories had come out like where John Milius had literally nothing to do with it. So I doubt that they're doing that with this, but I do wonder like how much George Martin really had to do with this game.
I wonder if he wrote, because like a lot of those From Software games are really about the background storytelling. He's probably just written a bunch of stuff.
Like a Bible, and then they make it from there. Yeah.
It'd be pretty neat.
So
I'm expecting it to be pretty good.
Yeah, me too.
It's hard to, I mean, From Software they've not put out like a bad game really. It's really just comes down to your taste.
Yeah.
Like Dark Souls isn't really my thing, but I can't sit there and be like, this is terrible, you know? So, looking forward to it. Elden Ring.
Elden Ring from and Bandai Namco. Now, at the end, they talked about, and I thought this was a little disingenuous, that thousands of games are in development for Xbox. This is nonsense because what they're basically saying, they're counting PC games, and there are probably tens of thousands of PC games in development. Who knows? You know?
Yeah.
And so I found that a little bit disingenuous, but Phil Spencer did talk about Project xCloud, that demos are going to be coming, cloud gaming really starting in October. They're kind of jumping onto that, console streaming. They really did emphasize the hybrid nature of their approach, which Sony is also doing, which Google is not doing, which is why I think Stadia is doomed.
Yeah.
So any thoughts about xCloud or the streaming?
I think it's smart to get in on it, and I also think it's smart to have an alternative option for people who don't have the internet to stream, which is, again, why Google is in such a weird position.
By the way, dude, I don't know if this is true, but with Stadia, I saw this image where it's like the sliding scale where it shows like how fast your internet is.
Yeah.
And like at 10 Mbps, it's like 720 at 30 frames. I think that like I'm not getting much better than that in LA. Like I don't even, in other words, I don't know that I'll even be able to achieve 1080 30 on streaming. If I can't do that in Los Angeles,
I don't know, man.
I just don't see how it's going to happen.
Their whole thing is baffling because you have to pay for the subscription and you also have to buy the games.
Yes.
So, okay, what? Why would you pay for something that you could only stream?
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, that's a good point.
Imagine
it's $9.99 a month, and then you also
imagine paying for Netflix and then buying every individual movie. Like, what? What are you talking about? This is insane. I understand they have to make money, and that's like, I understand that, but like also, it just seems this is way too early. Like this game streaming shit.
I agree.
This is like 2026, like at earliest.
2020. So 7 years from now.
Yeah, 7 years from now, I assume it's probably going to be a regular thing.
It's smart for these companies. It's similar to PSVR, like to make the investment early and then you're
for
there.
Sure, yeah.
If you can withstand it.
I think they can. Google definitely has the money to take this, but it's also just like it reminds me of when Microsoft made tablet computers in the 90s. It's like this is awesome. Definitely, you're on the right track here, but like nobody's ready for this. People barely have accepted laptops at this point.
Yeah,
and you're jumping already to tablets
and Apple Pippin.
Yeah,
of course, their console. At the end, Chris, they finally talked about their Project Scarlett.
We still don't have a full name
for
what it's going to be called.
Holiday 2020.
Holiday 2020. It's going to be it's launching with Halo as a launch title, which is the first time that's happened since the original Xbox launch, which I thought was kind of interesting. Excited about that. Would have liked to see some more gameplay, but they look like they've really got the style of it down. I'm looking forward to seeing what the hell it is. It's just weird that I don't know. It's super weird that we didn't have gameplay for it.
Yeah,
because
there's more time though. Yeah, I don't think you want to show too much. Like
no, for sure, but like
18 months from now.
The thing is, they've promised ever since the botched launch of the Master Chief Collection. They've said every mainline Halo game will have a beta, and it's like a for real beta. I think the Halo 5 beta launched a full year before the game launched. So you'd assume, if it's going to be coming out in a year and some odd months, you'd have something about a beta or I don't know. I just found the lack of info to be kind of depressing. It looks great. I'm excited.
I just wonder how it's going to work from a game perspective. Like, this actually, for the first time, brings up an active question that we've only been hypothesizing about, which is how does cross-platform, or how will cross-generation, rather, games work when you're, like, in other words, are they going to release this game twice? What's the box going to look like? What is it going to say? You know, like what the Xbox, like whatever it's going to be called, is it backwards compatible on Xbox One, also available on Xbox One? You know what I'm saying? They have to figure out like language now to say not only box language, but also just communicative marketing language about, well, this is an Xbox whatever launch game. You can buy it. It will work on your Xbox One and your Xbox One X. How do you effectively communicate that? This is now the first time we have a specific game that we know is going to be on both consoles. So not only are we hypothesizing or talking about the backwards compatibility, it's launching on the console.
Yeah.
So how do you think they'll handle that? That's a big question for me. That's actually a really interesting marketing challenge.
Yeah, I'm really curious about how they're going to do that. My assumption is that they're probably going to limit it to Xbox One X.
So you think that so you think that the original Xbox One will not play?
I cannot imagine a game that's utilizing any of the bells and whistles of this next generation of console is going to even remotely perform on a base. You know, can you imagine Death Stranding on a base PS4? Even just Death Stranding? Good Lord.
But it's going to run on a base PS4.
It will, but like this is like next gen stuff.
Yeah.
So like I don't know. I'd almost imagine like it'd almost be depressing if it could run on the Xbox One. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'd be like, what's the point then?
Yeah, that's a good point because
you're
right, because it's no problem making well, I guess that's why you would have to make it a next Xbox game that somehow, actually, it doesn't make any sense. You would have to make it the most base game and then allow it to upgrade from there And that might be what it is. That might be when we're really starting to see deep customization or automatically conceived customization options on these new consoles, where you put the game in, and it's like it understands what you're playing,
it might
on
just
what
be
machine
like,
you're playing, and then it's going to render it based on what you have.
Yeah, it might just be like the way PC does it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Like you run a game on like a really nice PC, it's going to load faster, it's going to play a lot more responsibly. You play it on like a Motorola Razr, it's probably not going to play so well.
Right.
Probably not going to load so fast.
They did talk, Chris, about achieving 8K resolution at 120 frames. Now, I did read a rumor from Andrew Reiner. Andrew Reiner is a pretty well-connected person in the industry. He's at Game Informer. He's been there forever. Where he had been hearing rumors, and I have been hearing stuff like this too, but I really don't know if it's true, that the next PlayStation is definitively more powerful than this. That people that have access to both builds for making games are saying the PlayStation is more powerful. Now, that is a scary notion to me, because if a machine is running a game at 120 frames and 8K, I just don't believe that that's even possible. I think you have to choose one or the other. Otherwise, this machine is going to be extremely expensive. And if PlayStation 5 can do even better than this, and I don't think they're saying they can do better than 120 or 8K, but if it's more powerful, then how much are these machines going to cost? That's like my big thing. They did talk about how their AMD processor is custom. That's not a huge surprise. 4 times more powerful than Xbox One X, which is already more powerful than the PS4 Pro. Yeah. So we're getting in places with some of these machines' capabilities. It's
definitely... I'm very curious about how this next generation is going to look. Specifically, I'm kind of sad we didn't see the box.
Yeah, when they were doing that cool, they were doing like, it looked like they were showing, because they did it with Xbox One, as far as I remember back in the day.
And X, I think.
Yeah, and like where the camera's like panning around, and they pan out and show the box, but it was just the Scarlett logo. I actually thought Scarlett has 2 T's in it. It would have been cool if Project had 2 T's in it. I would have liked that. So like Project with 2 T's with Scarlett, which if I were there, I'd been like, that would be kind of neat. But it's obviously not going to be called Xbox Scarlett or anything like that. So I assume we'll get a name for it and all this other information next year. But I wonder now that I do want to say one other thing. I wish I wrote this down. Phil Spencer said something that I've been saying that's really interesting. He said it so eloquently. I really do wish I wrote it verbatim. Where he basically said, like, in generations past, we were able to identify jumps by graphical fidelity and by the way games looked. And that's not going to be what it is anymore. And that's what I've been hoping and saying for the entire time we've been doing Sacred Symbols, that the next jump is going to be in power that you will find when you play, not when you look at it. You'll obviously note that the game runs at a smoother frame rate. You'll obviously note that the resolution's higher. But what you're really going to note is that the AI is smarter. What you're really going to note is that the load times are really fast. What you're really going to note is that the game's hard drive maybe we'll be able to, and they actually talked about this. I think that they're even using like weird shit with their hard drives.
Yeah, they're using their SSD as RAM, which is interesting.
And again, this is way above me. Like, I don't understand any of that.
That's just an interesting way to go about that.
So, where do you think Xbox stands now? How do you think how fit do you think they are moving forward? I think that they look like they're in good shape, personally.
I think so too. I think it's a pretty solid showcase. I think they have a lot. I think people who play on that system have a lot to look forward to. There's a lot of good value there with Game Pass. I think they're in a pretty good spot. I do wonder. I gotta wonder how they're gonna convince people to buy a new thing though. If everything is going to be, because I feel like this is going to be a very transitional generation. It's not going to be like last time where you had like different SKUs of different games. I feel like it's going to be the same game running at like different intervals of power. So I wonder how they're going to convince people to, I wonder what the price point's going to be.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, this sounds like an expensive console to me. Like, this sounds
8K,
like a $500 console at least. Man. And I just don't know. I know that, first of all, the AMD chipsets and all that stuff are custom. They buy in massive bulk, so they get things for cheaper. So I think that when people like try to be cute and put these things together as a computer and then say, like, who gives a shit how much you paid for an AMD processor? You're not buying fucking 10 million of them. So you're not getting the same value that Xbox is. So whatever you went and bought these off the shelf components for, it doesn't matter. You know, so I hate those kinds of, I hate that shit. But it still sounds like it's going to be a very expensive machine. And I don't know that that's wise. But it seems like you said a transitionary thing where there's going to be waves of games that play on both machines. And so people can kind of get comfortable moving over as things become more affordable or necessitate the power of those machines. But I do also say what I said at the top, and what a lot of people are saying in a lot meaner of a way on social media right now, because I don't think that Microsoft did a bad job at all. There's nothing here that Sony should be scared of. If Sony watched this today and they were like afraid, of what was happening, they should feel great. There's nothing in that conference that should make PlayStation feel like they're going to lose. Like nothing at all. Microsoft's definitely not going to have better games. I'm sorry. Like, that's not going to happen. And from like exclusives, they're not going to beat them there. With the exception of a Halo game every 5 years, that will be a big pop, or a Gears game. Like, Sony's got that wrapped up.
Yeah.
But there are 13 studios now in Xbox's catalog. Most of them were purchased when they were quiet. So we're going to see a lot of those games next year. And so I think that people that are doubting Xbox Next, let's call it, ability to succeed are missing most of the picture still, because, these teams, Playground Games, for instance, is working on an open world game, apparently, right? There's like all of this weird shit happening in their ecosystem. I think now is the time we got to be patient and not read too much into it. But I think Microsoft succeeded. I think they did exactly what they needed to do. And I didn't expect anything else than what they showed us. In fact, I think they showed us a little more than I thought they were going to show us. So from my perspective, it was a success.
Yeah, I would agree.
I don't know why people are so hard on Xbox.
They're the new guys. And
But
now Google's the new guys.
Yeah, I see. But
nobody likes Google.
No one likes Google. But they are the new guys. But it was 18 years ago that the Xbox came out.
But that never goes away.
Yeah, I know. But when you really compare it, it's like Sony only came out 7 years before that. At this point, like, your Nintendo is really the OG, still.
Yeah.
So I don't like that attitude about the way people treat Microsoft. So I think it's a tale of two worlds, from, tale of two cities, as it were.
For sure.
You have one thing where it's like, yeah, you guys look good. I think this is a positive trajectory. Phil Spencer's the right guy. He got the right people in place. He got the right tools going. The machine looks really powerful. You're saying all the right things. Excellent. The other kind of rail, Sony hasn't said a goddamn thing yet. Except for shit, by the way, that you talked about today. Sony already talked about real-time ray tracing. They already talked about inconceivably quick load times. They already talked about all these things. It's interesting because Sony actually undercut. Imagine how big it would have been, Chris, if Xbox came out and said, these games load in less than a second. Like, if they were literally like, these games literally don't have any load times. But Sony already said that. So now we already knew that. In other words, I feel like that was a big piece of thunder that was stolen away. Very wisely.
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean, you weren't surprised when you read that Wired article and they were saying that Spider-Man loaded in less than a second? That was a huge surprise to me. That's 12 times quicker than PS4 will load it.
Yeah, but I don't know. The PS4 is kind of old at this point. Like, I don't know. I wasn't really shocked by the load time. What shocked me was the SSD. The fact that they're using an SSD, because those are typically incredibly expensive.
Right. Which is another reason why these things are probably going to be...
Yeah.
I can't imagine these consoles are going to be as affordable as the last gen.
But yeah, I wonder if Microsoft is in any better position now that they're releasing games on multiple platforms, though, to absorb that cost.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll be able to release this thing at like $350.
I think they're 2 or 3 years away from releasing PS4 games or PS5 games. Like, I really do. I think that they're literally, and I don't say they're going to disappear. What I think they're going to do is say, like, fuck it. Like, we make money on selling games. If you want to buy, and I've told you, I have it on good authority that Master Chief Collection was being talked about on PS4 years ago. Yeah. Like, I have that on great authority. Mm-hmm. So this is a conversation that has happened and that they will broach again, I think. And they're so different than Sony, where Sony really... Can you imagine the meetings behind the scenes of Sony even releasing something like Helldivers on PC? It must have taken them like a year to convince them to do that. Or Journey. Like, that must have been such a huge challenge. And by the way, it's an Epic exclusive, so I'm sure they were just like, fuck it. Give us $10 million and you have it. But I look at it through the lens of the contemporary gamer, what they have now, the amount of money they spend on games, etc., and then what they're getting in the future. And I think Phil Spencer really was quite poignant in saying that what you're going to get is going to be harder to perceive than what you think you're going to get. Yeah. And that makes me excited. I like that.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. Definitely.
So that's Microsoft's showing. Mm-hmm. For all of the games, or most of the games, we're not going to talk about a lot of those ID at Xbox games, but for most of the games that were announced that are third party and will be on PS4 as well, we will talk about them fully on episode 50, which will go live. If you're listening to this, basically in the order that they're published, this will go live, and then the next day, episode 50 will go live. So look for that, where we'll really dive into the nature of a lot of these different games. And we'll also talk about the Square Enix conference,
yes,
the Bethesda conference, and the Ubisoft conference. And we're going to record little sessions for each of them and then have Dustin stitch them all together. So you're going to have a pretty, I don't know how long it's going to be, but you're going to have a pretty thorough episode of Sacred Symbols for E3. That happens to be the 50th episode of the show.
Yeah, I'm really interested in what Bethesda's gonna do.
Me too.
I'm so curious.
Me too.
So curious.
In fact, I was operating until like an hour ago that Square went tonight and Bethesda went tomorrow. So when I was looking at my schedule, I was like, oh, I totally misread that.
Is it the opposite? Wait, Bethesda's going today?
Yeah, Bethesda goes today, and then tomorrow's UB and Square.
When are they going?
Bethesda goes at 5, and then UB goes at 1, and Square goes at 6.
I thought the same thing you thought, and we haven't even. I don't think we've swapped notes on this at all.
No, it was just
weird.
Mind meld.
Huh.
Perhaps.
Strange.
So yeah, we're going to do a full, thorough episode about E3, everything not to do with Xbox. But I thought, Chris, it would be fun for the audience to just have a special episode that's not a spoiler cast that talks about something that I think is very germane to our conversation every week, which is what our direct competition, and by our, I mean this ecosystem's direct competition, is of course doing. And I think it's incredibly relevant.
Especially because Sony's not here.
Exactly. Otherwise, it's. I feel a little underwhelmed this year because Sony's not there. Where that's the only conference I usually really care about, and everything else is kind of nice gravy on the potatoes, as it were. But now we have to find new ways and exciting. And I'm kind of glad that Sony's not there now because it allows Xbox to shine, and we're really going to see how everything settles in. But I think it was very wise. By the way, what is the wisdom in Sony not being here now that Xbox won? I think the wisdom is through the roof.
Maybe.
Don't you think? What is happening that they're afraid of?
I don't think anything's happening that they're afraid of, but I also think no one's talking about them right now at all.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some rumors about some PS4 game coming.
Yeah,
but
some acquisition rumors as well, which is interesting. I don't know how true those are.
Yeah,
but I think it's what would have Sony rather have done though, right? Been at E3 and shared the limelight, and some people are talking about PlayStation, and then they're comparing and contrasting like they always do.
Well, Sony
just goes away, and then at PSX they just show everything, and there's no competition.
Yeah, I mean that's also smart, but there's also just a part of me that just doesn't think that they have anything to show, and that's probably why they didn't show up. Because what are they going to show? Ghost of Tsushima again?
Yeah.
Last of Us 2 again? There's only a handful of things happening, and they've already announced. And let's make no mistake here, they're still part of E3. They're not there. And they're not there in a professional capacity, but they just put out a Death Stranding trailer within the E3 time frame.
Right.
That's not a coincidence.
And there are people there trying to sign games and taking meetings. I'm going out to dinner with a couple people from Sony this week, so they're around.
They're just not there on stage.
Yeah, exactly. So
don't be naive.
Don't be foolish. Next year is going to be fucking cool as hell because you assume Sony will be back. Both machines will have probably already been revealed, like the actual names and what the machines look like. Maybe even price points, and now they're going to start showing games. And it's interesting, actually, that Halo Infinite trailer might have a Watch Dogs-like provenance because we just saw a next-gen trailer that we know is a next-gen trailer. We assume Elden Rings will probably be a similar situation, and we assume Avengers maybe and some other stuff, but we haven't seen too many games that are confirmed for next-gen yet. I know a few that are in development that are only next-gen games that haven't been announced yet, obviously. Yeah. And that's probably why you really can't announce the games until you announce the console. So this was Xbox getting some shit out of the way that Sony hasn't gotten out of the way yet. So we'll see. Maybe we'll go to Japan or something for the announcement when the time comes.
Yeah, who knows?
We'll have to see. I doubt so. Sony doesn't seem to like us very much these days anymore. So, Chris, that's all we have for this special episode of Sacred Symbols.
Indeed.
Remember, one more time, we're going to do episode 50, a normal episode. So this is just extra for you guys this week. We just wanted to give you a little something special.
Yeah.
Is that all right with you? No questions, comments, concerns, and thoughts and ideas from the audience because I didn't even solicit any for this particular episode, but we'll work those in next time. Remember, you can get every episode of the show free and ad-free and 3 days early. You can get every episode of the show free. But if you want to support us on patreon.com/ColinsLastStand, get every episode of Sacred Symbols 3 days early, ad-free, the ability to submit your questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, and ideas to our mainline shows. Other perks, we really do appreciate it. Free feeds are still there. If you want to be a freeloader, we welcome it, and we will allow it. Chris, let's go eat salad.
Yes.
You have ordered the blandest.
It's the blandest.
Dude, I gotta even read what the salad is.
It's just green and chicken.
Holy moly!
No dressing either.
Let me see.
Just pure fiber.
You ordered chopped romaine, organic baby spinach, cilantro, basil, roasted chicken.
Literally,
no
that's
dressing.
It. No dressing.
By the way, that's 160 calories.
Yeah,
that's it. I ordered mesclun, kale, breadcrumbs, corn, sunflower seeds, walnuts, broccoli, almonds, onion, chicken thighs, egg, Parmesan, spicy cashew dressing.
I'm not in a mood that I'm particularly willing to eat a lot of things.
Yeah, no, hopefully this will help you settle your stomach.
Yeah.
Keep pounding that water as well. We're going to get going. Lola's basking in the sun here. She's usually not in the room with us.
Yeah. But she's been quiet.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that she was there.
She's usually too annoying to be in the office with us. So anyway, we're going to go. We're going to eat settle in for Bethesda. We'll see you for the regular episode. Thank you so much for your love, kindness, and support. Till next time, goodbye.
Take care, guys.
Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is a product of and a registered trademark of Colin's Last Stand, LLC, and is recorded right here in sunny Santa Monica, California, USA. This show is conceived by, is written by, and is produced by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-host is Chris Raygun. You can find me on Twitter at NoTaxation and on Instagram at CLS Moriarty. Chris is on Twitter at Chris R. Gunn and on Instagram at Chris_Ray_Gun. Sacred Symbols is edited by Dustin Furman. Any snail mail can be sent to the CLS P.O. Box, P.O. Box 1233, Santa Monica, California, 90406. To message the show online, please use Patreon's DM service. As you know, all of Colin's Last Stand shows, including Sacred Symbols, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/ColinsLastStand. The following names are at the producer level or higher on Patreon, and we are eternally grateful for your kindness, generosity, and fandom. Carlos Algaret, CJ Anderson, George A. Nunez, Morgan Ashley, Taylor Barkley, Sean Battershaw, Martin Beck, Eric Bishop, Mark Boggio, Eli Blossford, Michael Josiah Borison, Barrett Boswell, Daniel Boyer, Spencer Brand, Miguel Brewer, Lennon Brixey, Jimmy Brown, Josh Bushing, Austin Bullock, Andrew Burkhart, Dylan Burns, Chris Buston, Alex Cabrera, Brian Cacciatolo, Tom Cargill, Patrick Carper, William O'Carroll, Ryan Caulfield, Brian Chan, Travis Chandler, Sean Chandler, David Chestnut, Simon Conception Jr., Brad Cooley, Gio Corsi, Nick Cummings, Daniel Diamore, Colin Davenport, Mitchell Durkash, Zachary Douglas, Night Draft, David Ellis, Martha Emery, Joe Finelli, Eric Finkenbeiner, Photios Frangos, Michael Gallier, Chris Galvin, Connor Gashian, Alex Gates, Michael Gates, Salem Ghanem Al Ghanem, Daniel Glassford, Tyler Goodwin, Josh Gravelick, Miranda Grubba, Tyler Harris, Kyle Hagel, Wyatt Henry, Asa Haas, Azan Isa El Ricey, Josh Yeager, John Jameson, Jimmy Jolacure, Joshua Jonathan, Greg Juliffs, Anton K, Jeremy Key, Auntie Kinnunen, James Kinslow III, Ryan R. Kittredge, Jackson Lassiqua, Joe Lawson, Don Q. Lee, Patrick Leslie, Dustin Lewis, Keith A. Lewis, Chad Lewis, Lou and Ray Loper, Colin Love, Josh M., Ryan T. Mandel, Peter Mark, Michael Martinez, Sean Mason, Zachariah McAdoo, John McCarthy, Joe McPartlin, Andrew Mendoza, Christopher Midling, Alex Mones, Betty Ann Moriarty, Ryan Murdoch, Adam Nix, Donnie Nolan, Brian Ott, Jorge Palomino, Daniel Parsons, Brendan Peavy, Marius S. Peterson, Gerald Pennington, Enrique Perez, Nicholas Perfect, James Perrone, Jason Pettit, Jeff Pollard, Louis Powell, Lawrence F. Prokop, Andrew Ramos, Ryan Reeves, Michael Renner, Peter Reynolds, Shane Rayum, Jonathan Rice, Mark Richardson, Toby D. Riemenschneider, Austin Riley, Petro Rose, A.G. Rowe, John Scholes, Michael Shanholz, Brandon Sharkey, Toby Shootman, Joshua Smallwood, Daniel Streichars, John Tabanillo, Ahmad Tamar, Ben Thompson, Carl Tolman, Alan Trembley, Jacob Turnbaugh, Phil Van Ralt, Raymond Vargas, Michael Vecchio, Justin Wagaman, Oakley Waldron, Isaac Wastman, Damon Weathers, Mike Wayant, Corey Wyatt, Tony Zuniga, Casual Misfits Gaming, Supershot ST, Homeworld Hub, Throw 7, Infinite, Organic Produce, Mad Mock Media, Fabian, Mubarak, Richter 86, Hugo's Desk, Andrew, Ian, Chris, Donk 2015, and Gavin.